I mean, people are still filing in.
They will. The doors will
Yes,
stay open, probably. Yeah, I think we can start.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Welcome for coming. Thank you for choosing our talk. I know there are so many amazing talks happening at the same time. We're glad you're here. My name is Julia. I'm a Principal Developer Relations Engineer at -0 as of last week. You've probably seen us everywhere around KubeCon wearing this red jumpsuit. If you want a backpack, stop by our booth. And I'm here with my friend Luke. Luke, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, but really, again, Julia, this is what, your first week on the job?
Yes.
So congratulations on the new job, Julia. And I'm Luke Phillips. I'm a soon-to-be principal engineer, starting a new role next week.
Yeah. So congratulations to you too.
Thank you. So we're here to talk about platform engineering and our different journeys. We both come to platform engineering from totally different angles, as an engineer, as a DevRel. So, kind of figuring out what's the point of all that. So, as an engineer, as a DevRel, they walk into a bar, what happens next? Well, let's dive in. Julia?
So 5 years ago, I would never imagine I would be up here talking about platform engineering for two reasons. First one, I was still trying to figure out what Kubernetes was. And honestly, I haven't figured that out yet. And second reason was because platform engineering wasn't really a thing back then. It wasn't a job role. People weren't talking about it at conferences or at organizations. And nowadays, it has become a buzzword. Everyone's talking about it. We're all here in this room, to talk about strategies, and there are communities being built around it. And the beautiful thing is that now we're treating platform engineering like a real product discipline and not just another tooling problem. Now, if we're honest, every platform engineer dreams of their platform to be like an empty highway, like you see on the left. Yeah, smooth, fast, and easy to use. You merge on and everything just flows. But in reality, it feels more like they're on the right, a rush hour traffic, there is noise, there is frustration, and at least there are 3 people honking at the same time at you, the platform engineer. And anyone who's actually built a system like that knows how complicated it can be, how messy it can be. And now you start with good intentions, so let's make developers' lives easier. But it doesn't go like that. 6 months later, you hear from your developers, oh, this pipeline is too slow. I'm gonna build my own scripts. And the documentations are outdated again. Or we didn't know the platform could do that. And that's very frustrating for us platform engineers. And before you know it, the platform that was supposed to make the developers' lives easier, they become the main source of frustration. And the gap that we need to close is the gap from left to right, like from reality to what we want as platform engineers. So that's what we're here to talk about today. How we roll it out, how we document it, and how we support the people that are using it. I still remember the first time someone told me about Kubernetes. They said it's a platform to run containers on, and I said, okay, great, that sounds simple, awesome. But then I looked at the CNCF landscape, and I was so overwhelmed, I just wanted to run away. And this image is just a small representation of the CNCF landscape. You probably know it's much bigger than that, and it keeps growing and growing. And that's how developers feel, they feel overwhelmed. There are so many choices for them, and it's not that they're not smart, there is too much for them to choose from. And not only that, they have to pick the tools, they have to manage them, and they have to troubleshoot them. So it's a lot, we understand that, and that's why we as platform engineers, in the context here of this presentation, platform engineers, our job is to help them. So platforms really matter for our developers, for the company, so they can be faster and they can be more productive. And a platform should remove friction, obviously, not add to that. And it's not about throwing more tools into an internal developer portal and just hoping they all stick together. It's about curating them, curating the tools, guiding them, and supporting the developers. But here's the tricky part. You can't force people to use it. Once you tell developers you have to use this platform, you've already lost them. You can forget about it. Developers, they want to have autonomy, and that you can't take the freedom from them, even if, otherwise they're just going to, build other things, have workarounds, and build their own script at 2 a.m., which you don't want. They will definitely find workarounds. At the same time, you can't make it too simple for them to use. You can't hide all the complexity under the hood, because you want to make their jobs easier. But otherwise, they're just gonna think it's like a black box. They are not gonna see the tools under it, and they're not gonna trust the tools. So you need to find a balance between simplicity and the complexity of all the tools. And even if you build the perfect system, it doesn't matter if the culture of your company doesn't support it. If teams are rewarded by shipping fast in isolation, your developers are not gonna use your tools. They're not gonna feel encouraged to use your tools, even if you have amazing tools. And if you launch your platform and just move on, it's definitely gonna go stale fast. You need to be always listening to your developers, listening to their needs, what they want, and also needs of the company. And the moment you stop listening to your developers, you stop being relevant. So this is a big thing, always getting the feedback from your developers. And the truth is, all those challenges, they are human and not technical. When I started my career, a little over 5 years ago, I came from another industry, I transitioned into technology. I felt like that guy down at the mountain, and I was overwhelmed with so many tools, so many acronyms, and I felt like everyone else, they knew what they were doing except me. And I was terrified of breaking production, terrified of asking the wrong question, and terrified and feeling like I didn't belong. And probably a lot of people also felt that way, also still feel that way. And a lot of developers, they feel like that when they are starting out, and even if they are staff or principal engineers as well. Because if you don't guide them, if you don't meet them where they are, they're going to feel like imposters. And that doesn't help with their productivity. That doesn't help with the whole organization goal to, get them shipping fast. So what do we do about it? How do we make our platforms more lovable, not just easier, but better for them to adopt and grow with it? So it starts with progressive defaults. You give people, your developers, an easy way in, something that works straight out of the box. And for instance, you can have pre-configured pipelines, you can have smart defaults, everything with very small friction. Don't overwhelm them from day one. Keep adding tools and things as they start learning and as they get curious. Otherwise, they're just gonna get overwhelmed and then be paralyzed. Next, focus on guidance and discoverability. Developers, they shouldn't just go on a scavenger hunt every time they want to find something and having to message someone on Slack or open a ticket if they need something. No, just bring help where they are. So for instance, you can have quick tips on the portal or examples on the CLI. You can also embed workflows, have demos for them to show how to use a tool. And when they go looking, make it easy for them to find what they need. So searchable documentation, code samples, etc. Your goal is to document it, but also make it learnable for the developers. And then create safe spaces for them to experiment. You don't want them breaking production, right? So have them break something else, like a sandbox, and a place that they can, learn and get hands-on, which is the best way for them to learn. And that's how you build trust with the team, the developer team. Not just like through rules and mandating them to use the tool, but giving them options of like, try this is the development, a sandbox for you to try, and then ship everything to production. Finally, consistency. A great platform should feel familiar to everyone, no matter where they are. So you should have the same patterns, same workflows, same expectations, because consistency will build confidence for the developers, and they will want to use the tools more. So far we've talked about accessibility more at a personal level. What does that mean for an individual developer on a day-to-day, on their day-to-day experience, day-to-day job? But the bigger challenge is, how do we scale that from a small company, a small team of developers? How do we take that work from 1 to 100, to 1,000, to a huge enterprise? How do we make that culture scale and not just the code? And that's where Luke comes in. He has a lot of experience with that, and he's going to share with us how he has applied product thinking and progressive platform design at enterprise scale.
Thank you, Julia. And so the answer to scaling at the enterprise is just keep doing what Julia said, and thank you for coming to our talk. Thank you, Julia. So scaling accessibility, what does it look like in practice? You're scaling your platforms and things like that. From my various enterprises that I've worked at, organizations running from the hundreds to the thousands of developers, whether it's all sorts of backgrounds, whether it's Python engineers or Java backend or front end, a whole variety of different workloads, your SREs and things like that. It really is kind of Julia's journey multiplied by 1,000. That's the enterprise reality. My platform departments themselves, has kind of also reflected the diversity of what makes a platform engineer. I don't know anyone that could say, like, here is exactly what is a platform engineer. It's a great discussion, and that's kind of great about that role. I think a lot of people can become both platform engineers and what makes a good platform department, whether you come from network engineering, storage engineering, application developers, infrastructure, DevRel, all sorts of backgrounds. All of those together is what's going to build an effective platform at a much larger scale. And a lot of those things that I've learned along the way, much like Julia described, whether it's the progressive defaults, the safe sandboxes, just-in-time learning, these all scale. I think we're just going to add a few additional add-ons that are some similar and a little more extending at the enterprise level. Feedback loops, concrete measurement, and a relentless focus on what actually matters to users. So let's cover the trade-offs first, and then let's get to a product at scale. First, I really appreciated Julia's analogy earlier before about kind of going from cars into traffic, and then I'm showing the picture before of traffic into rail. A car is great. It gets you anywhere. It gives you incredible freedom. It's also the least efficient use of a road. A platform is a free-for-all, ignoring user needs, ignoring business needs. It becomes a traffic jam and the least efficient use of your infrastructure. When you take into account your business needs, user needs, build for scale, you start to take trade-offs and architect for scale. Build a rail-like experience, standard paths, standard containers, able to travel at a high speed, delivering people and software safely at a high rate. Everything is a trade-off, is what you'll learn as you're kind of building and working at scale. Whether building platforms, you're constantly choosing the various architectural characteristics to prioritize all the various ilities, observability, scalability, deployability, security, performance. You can't optimize for all of them. Every choice has its consequences, but kind of the secret to figuring out how you make these choices is a lot of those interactions with your users, your customers, your developers, and things like that. You get to choose, like, do you want to prioritize deployability and observability over performance. If I never deploy software again, it's perfect uptime. Nothing ever changes. But that doesn't really solve our feature needs, things like that. But rather than walking through every possibility and trying to teach you all software architecture over what could be easily a week-long course, I have a shortcut that will make you all senior software architects real quick. So whenever someone asks you one of the ability questions, how do we handle scalability, you say, it depends. And so let's try that out real quick. I'm going to make you all software architects right now. So when I say, how will we handle scalability, you say it depends, okay? So how will we handle scalability?
It depends.
Fantastic. You are all now senior software architects. Congratulations. Balancing the complexity of all of our cloud-native tools, the community tools, the vendor tools, things like that. As Julia kind of talked about before, various trade-offs and tools and choices. Don't make all teams do these choices individually. Start to gather all these choices collectively, make them once, document them, and code them into your platform. Define like 3 or 4 architectural characteristics from the slide. Document why you made these choices. Put these into ADRs, architectural decision records. Those both feed into your teams, your future teams, as well as now you can feed those into like your AI tools as well, and kind of develop a domain language about how you're building this platform. Future teams will thank you for this, as well as the trade-offs become a real success for what you're building. What showing here is just one example, though, of how you might, say, embed your architecture into your system. Consider how you might enable something called a fitness function to validate your architecture and validate your choices on these abilities at every step of the way. Define success and automate the measurement. So if we're all, say, deploying into the cloud or deploying into Kubernetes, some API-based system, use that tool, use your platform, use the cloud to measure the cloud. You know, say deployability, we define a certain deployment window, time frame, all deployments less than 30 minutes, automatic checks, a Lambda example here that validates those kind of things. Things that are scanning and defining your security policies, observability, ensure that everything is emitting what you want for logs, traces, metrics, things like that. Use your tools to measure yourself, and you kind of grow your architecture and your platform through that. As well, practically, there's other techniques like GitOps, security scanning, RBAC checks. We'll use that as a detailed example here in a second. Enterprises are going to need guardrails that scale beyond just the architectural review boards, beyond people and discussions. The easiest, ultimately you want to make the easiest way also the right way architecturally. Pick one of these characteristics, define, say as an example, a fitness function, build and measure yourselves along the way. As well, feedback loops are critical, one of the critical 3 that I was mentioning before, towards defining and figuring out what's actually working. At scale, you can't just ask everyone at coffee what's working. You need other systematic means of feedback and approaches. Certainly starting as a confession, myself as an engineer, I'm drawn to complexity. As Neil Ford puts it so perfectly, engineers or developers are drawn to complexity like moths to a flame, often with the same result. When I look at the CNCF landscape as an example, I marvel at all the possibilities. How can we plug things in together, stitch everything together? But I can't be just driven by that. I must maintain user focus, customer feedback. That customer feedback is what navigates me through these architectural choices and through the CNCF landscape as well. And so these feedback loops aren't just optional. It's kind of how you avoid ever building the wrong thing. And as you're figuring these things out, as you're documenting things, you want to practice sharing these experiences, both inside your company, much like we're seeing here at KubeCon, all the various open source projects and commercial projects. What makes them successful is the communities that they cultivate, the monthly demos, what I used to do in my previous organizations where we do like capability showcases, not training sessions, but showcases. That becomes an incredible feedback opportunity, just watching people's faces as you describe new features and capabilities. Are they happy or are they sad about these capabilities? Continue to work through that, and as well, this also becomes a great chance for you to kind of build up both your, say, your own speaking abilities, or to mentor junior engineers, to practice speaking and showcasing capabilities so that you too, I mean, do this in your own company, which should be plenty enough, but this also kind of becomes a training ground, so maybe someday you can be here at KubeCon presenting as well about all these ideas. As you go along, you're going to get a lot of incredible feedback, really passionate users. You're going to have early adopters. You're going to have people that are really energetic about your platform, and you're going to have some incredible critics for your platform. You want to reward all of them, cultivate them as champions into your system, give them early access to your backlogs and to features, things like that, kind of help them along to be kind of the evangelists of your system. Their word of mouth will be way more valuable than perhaps your next showcase. Be able to get them, as well for critics. Like I've heard this in critics where they're talking about, I never got past hello world of your system, and using that to go, all right, we need to really improve, say, like the rollout of a new application, press the button, and instead it's a truly fully deployed, fully instrumented routing production real traffic. That really, for us, really drove that adoption, getting some of that feedback and adjusting to it. As well, diving into something we wanted to talk about, or just try to find a case study as an example. The author of it's right in front here almost, or one of them. It's like, what is a case study that might be a good example of some effects of how you have improved developer productivity or the developer experience, as well as affected an architectural choice kind of thing. So there's the GitOps report, State of GitOps report that came out this summer. Check it out, it's a really great report, something that I had worked on myself in my previous enterprises years ago, where I was kind of putting into place GitOps practices, and having seen in my own enterprise, having fully done in GitOps, where we had seen deployment deployments being the cause of 60% of all production incidents. After GitOps, we had dropped deployments as a cause of production incidents to like 30%. So seeing an incredible reduction there, but that whole journey was a lot of user outreach, a lot of user experience feedback along the way. And what was kind of really great about this this use case is kind of validating this experience that I had, that so many other people are seeing this as well. And there's a lot of great details in the report. This is just some of my favorite graphics coming out of it. There's many more in there where it's kind of, you're seeing how the various technical trade-offs on one side of the graph lead into people all validating in various surveys and things like that, oh, here's all the developer productivity gains that I've seen. You think that maybe GitOps is silly, I already use Git for everything, but when you're doing the full reconciliation and all these other things and having, again, kind of adjusted your architecture, again, this is just one example of how architecture can affect a developer experience. There's so much more in the report. Again, I highly recommend you check it out. But as well, there's only a few more minutes that I get to talk to you today, but there's so much more I would love to tell you about how to build these platforms, get into deeper mechanisms of our architecture. Likewise, so much Julia could tell you as well, other success and experiences she had. So if you search her name on YouTube, or if you search my name, you'll find so many other stories, how we've both have journeyed through our platform experiences and have built architectures and products, things like that. So I highly recommend you check those out as well. There's more to what we have. Lots of good material online for that. Getting back to out of the use case and to the things that I mentioned of success, where part of the feedback loop was also how you're measuring your platforms. And there's so many options, various measurement frameworks out there, Dora, Space, Monk, but what's really key to all of these is to remember that there's a human component to all of them, whether it's satisfaction, well-being, collaboration, surveys, human touch points. You can't just metric your way out of talking to people or avoiding the human part of that, but you do need metrics to kind of guide your conversations and understand the reach and success of your platform. Other techniques along the way other tools, CSAT, customer satisfaction, are your users satisfied? This provides a great measurement. NPS, Net Promoter Score, are people talking about your platform? Are they talking positively, negatively about it? There's so many interesting points about that. Office hours, certainly you're going to beat documentation, but don't ever skimp out on your docs. There's so much more you can get from those various options. And so as we kind of get to the end here, the biggest lesson I really want to for you all to take home is that what you're building here is a product, not a project. Platforms are products. Products are durable, iterable, solving persistent business issues forever. Always be learning, iterating, measuring, refining. As Steve Jobs here once said, start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. There's some great books and resources as well that we want to highlight.
Yeah, from friend of ours. Some of them are even here at KubeCon signing books. Some of them couldn't make it, unfortunately, but those books are really good, so we recommend them.
Yeah, Marcio, Hillary, Camille, all sorts of good books, as well as some other architectural details as well from others. And yeah, this is how you can reach us. We'd love to talk about what we've been talking about today. Find us in the hallways, find us online, things like that. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy KubeCon.
And if you have any questions, there's one microphone over there, or shout it out and we'll try to repeat it.
Yeah. So
as
the
I
question
mentioned
is,
it before.
I'm just going to repeat the question. The question is, yes, from all the things, the strategies that we mentioned, if there is one we would pick, which one would that be?
As I taught you earlier, it depends. Yeah, it's so, I think it's so dependent on the context of where you are and where things are. What are your business challenges? What are your user challenges? Where are you seeking differentiation, and what makes sense for your technology? But I mean, I guess there's really a culture of being open feedback. The feedback loop, I think, is maybe the place to really go, and have that, both affect, say, product and technical decisions. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
No. I think we have another question.
Is this working? Okay, great.
Yes.
So, kind of on the adoption track of things, how do you deal with developers that are probably overconfident in their ability to work with certain technologies and don't want to use your platform because they don't want to have their hands held? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Some of those thoughts, I think it's part of the measurements. So as you can measure your own developer experience on your platform, and working with a developer, like, can they answer the question of, like, how well are they deploying things? What's their rate of success? Are they avoiding issues? Are they causing outages in their own deployments? Not to say you need to, like, check their confidence, but you can work on the metrics and argue, and it's really kind of driving, I think, so many discussions where you're ever trying to avoid arguing with people, but rather, like, you've got your models, your metrics, your architectures, point to the documents, let's fight about the metrics, the documents, things like that. Let's kind of see if we can come together on those discussions. So that's kind of how I'd go with that.
I have a follow-up question on that. Let me see if I can phrase this correctly without sounding. What about in a similar case where you have developers, engineers that feel that their particular demands and workloads transcend what the platform offers, and therefore they should be given capacity to have full control over certain things?
I mean, there's a certain degree of, if you want the PagerDuty at night, knock yourself out. And there's going to be, you can get into the finer details in some of my last roles where we really got into a lot of the FinOps and the financials of, like, for a team that had moved to our platform, like, that freed up a bunch of budget for them suddenly. When we made every team, like, here's your cloud budget and your cloud budget, and it becomes, depending on the technology, those issues where it's like, yeah, they might be right, there might be some special case, but I find that to be rare, and usually, again, you might be able to measure that through, say, cloud costs and efficiencies, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a very similar question, actually. What advice do you have for platform engineers working at companies where shipping fast in isolation is rewarded by management, right? Because you can get to production most of the time by shipping fast in isolation, but it's those day two things on which you fall flat. And we find it's not so easy to define metrics which will, which sort of they will look at before they actually go to production.
Gotcha. You want me to try again?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Some of those experiences, some of it, what pops to mind is the culture around if I'm, as a developer, if I'm like, I need to be the one that deploys this thing, and I'm the only one that can do this, and it's like, great, if I do that, I can never progress and I can never change in my career. I need to babysit the thing that I will not let go of, kind of thing. And so that becomes, I think, the challenge. It becomes more perhaps a cultural challenge of like, that kind of limits what you get to work on and what you're going to work on next, because you're so stuck on that one thing. If you want to grow and move on to other things, you need to kind of work on, say, a lot of those ilities and kind of package things up as part of being a professional in our roles as engineers and things like that. That you need to have some of those handoffs and things like that. You can't just be the one. I don't know if that kind of helps.
Yeah, that does help. Thank you.
Yeah, time for one more, and
One
then
more?
I think we have
Yeah.
to go. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have kind of the reverse question of the first question. What's your biggest advice for kind of reversing a culture in an organization where there's a big split between platform and product teams? The platform's not accessible, product teams choose not to use it, go to other tools, and the platform engineers believe that they should just be able to figure this out. How can you kind of cultivate that empathy for product teams within a platform zone?
That's a really good question. At least I've, in my own experience, where it's more of a it's just such an amazing experience when the product teams, or when I've been working with the embedded product teams, when they're right there next to me, like, has been the best experience I've ever had. So I don't know if I have any facts or figures to give you, but just saying that has been such a wonderful experience when I've had that. And I can understand it's like, oh, it's really rough that I'm might be flying blind if I don't have that product person next to me here. I can kind of guess what I want technically, kind of thing, but there's only so much I can do that's going to be right if there's that moat between us. I don't know if you have thoughts. No. Yeah.
So to sum it up, bring them closer together?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully you see the results out of that. Hopefully people will speak positively. I will say, as witness, I think it's been a fantastic experience. So if anyone wants to quote that online, that's
great.
Use
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.